Our roads are being fixed. It is true that more roads have been fixed and are being fixed over the last 5 years than any relative period in the entire history of our nation. We even want to do a lot more, and this budget will cater for this. That is why for decades, governments after governments imposed and maintained tolls on some public roads to raise funds for road construction and maintenance. This is the situation in many countries. However, over the years, the tolling and impacted negatively on productivity. The congestion generated at the tolling points, besides creating these inconveniences, also leads to pollution in and around the vicinities. To address these challenges, government has abolished all tolls on public roads and bridges. This takes effect immediately the budget is approved on appropriation. The toll collection personnel will be reassigned. The expected impact on productivity and reduce environmental pollution will more than offset the revenue foregone by removing the tolls. Tolls, Mr. Speaker, would be abolished on all public roads.
Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe and click on that bell icon and get notified every time we share something new. You know we always share something new. Stay consistent.
Our roads are being fixed. It is true that more roads have been fixed and are being fixed over the last 5 years than any relative period in the entire history of our nation. We even want to do a lot more, and this budget will cater for this. That is why for decades, governments after governments imposed and maintained tolls on some public roads to raise funds for road construction and maintenance. This is the situation in many countries. However, over the years, the tolling and impacted negatively on productivity. The congestion generated at the tolling points, besides creating these inconveniences, also leads to pollution in and around the vicinities. To address these challenges, government has abolished all tolls on public roads and bridges. This takes effect immediately the budget is approved on appropriation. The toll collection personnel will be reassigned. The expected impact on productivity and reduce environmental pollution will more than offset the revenue foregone by removing the tolls. Tolls, Mr. Speaker, would be abolished on all public roads.
Thank you so much for watching.
Mr. Speaker, it has become clear that there's this enormous potential to increase tax revenue by bringing into the tax bracket transactions that could be best defined as being undertaken.
The Agyenkwa budget. I don't know about you, what you make of it, whether you would refer to it as same, as he calls it, the Agyenkwa budget. Now, the budget captures plans by government to build interchanges here in Greater Kumasi, plus the construction of Kumasi South and Western Bypass roads. Here is the Finance Minister when he was addressing Parliament, presenting the 2022 budget.
Something new is coming.
It's exciting. It's
easy listening.
Watch out. Watch out.
Major pipeline projects that are expected to take off in 2022 include Accra Kumasi dualization, Kumasi South and Western Bypass, Kumasi Outer Ring Road, construction of 5 interchanges in the Greater Kumasi metropolitan area, including Swame, Santase, Airport Runabout, and Ofori Chrome.
So that was the voice of the finance minister presenting the 2022 budget to Parliament yesterday. And of course, many people have been asking questions about this interchange because we've heard about it a couple of times. Times, giving as to when it to commence has changed a couple of times because we heard from the road minister, Akuetteh, and we've heard from the MP for Swami himself, Chairman Sabunsu, and yet we have not seen this work commence. I'll be telling you a few things about this very project as to whether it will see the light of day or not, plus the others that the finance minister talked about. But again, one key element from the presentation yesterday that has gotten so many people talking has to do with the electronic transaction levy, that is the e-levy of 1.7% on bank transactions, merchant payments, mobile money, transactions, as well as remittances where the receiver will pay that levy. Take a listen to the finance minister.
Get into the tax bracket transactions that will be best defined as being undertaken in the informal economy. After considerable deliberation, government has decided to place a levy on all electronic transactions to widen the tax net and rope in the informal sector.
Honourable members, order.
Electronic mobile money payments, bank transfers, merchant payments, and e-mode remittances will be charged at an applicable rate of 1.75%, which shall be borne by the sender, except e-mode remittances, which will be borne by the recipient. Mr. Speaker, to safeguard efforts being made to enhance financial inclusion and protect the vulnerable, all transactions that add up to 100 Ghana cedis or less per day, which is approximately 3,000 Ghana cedis per month, will be exempt from this levy. A portion of the proceeds from the e-levy will be used to support entrepreneurship, youth employment, cybersecurity.
All right, so the finance minister there. And that were excerpts from the budget presentation yesterday. And I've got Eugene Osetutu with me in the studios of Love 99.5. He's going to give us a gist as to what, he picked up from the presentation yesterday. Later this morning, we'll be activating the phone lines for you to tell us what you make of it, whether indeed it's an Agyenkwa budget that was presented, or like some people in the minority are saying, it's going to bring more hardship to the Ghanaian. Eugene, good morning to you.
I'm David, good morning.
And how are you doing?
I'm good. God is keeping us.
Okay, we are live on Facebook on LUV 99.5. You can join us there and share some thoughts with us as well. We'd love to hear from you as to what you make of the budget, especially the interchanges that we have been told has been captured in the budget and would be constructed. So, Eugene, what do you have for us this morning?
So, David, I'm just giving you some 5 minutes presentation on the budget. Some key notices and observations I made going through the budget statement that was read to us yesterday. Now, in 2022, we're expecting to raise some 100.5 billion cedis in terms of revenue and grants, the monies people will give to us, and also taxes from, the people. Our expenditure is estimated around 137 billion cedis. Already, you know that there's a gap there. There's a gap of about 32 billion cedis. When we raise all these monies, we are going to use 37.4 billion to pay services or interest loans and all that. David, this is worrying. For the second time round, we are spending more to service and pay loans, interest of loans, than the salaries and compensation for government workers, which is budgeted around 35.8 billion. When the minister was speaking, let me just give the Ashanti interest before anything else. The minister spoke and said that there will be some road construction in the Ashanti region. So when you use the unabridged or not the full budget, the simpler one at 155, he said that major pipeline projects are expected to take off in 2022 include, they said that Accra Kumasi dualization, meaning that there will be a section of the Accra Kumasi road that will also be dualized. Then there were also some interchange that were listed. The minister stated Ofurikrum. By reading the budget, I don't see that. So I'm just going by what I see in the budget. He said the construction of interchanges Greater Kumasi metropolitan area, including Swami, Santasi, and airport roundabout. Somebody may ask, was there a budget allocation to some of these things? Because normally when you read the budget, there may be the sources of fund that will be listed there. But David, I did another study and I saw something. There's been an astronomical increase in the budget for roads. For example, when you take the 2021 budget, the ministry or the government budgeted 952.6 million cedis for road infrastructure. Now in the 2022 budget, the government is is estimating to budget or has budgeted 1.73 billion cedis for roads. So when you see the increase is about 782.6 million cedis. And David, this is huge. This money indeed can complete some of these 3 interchanges. So from 952 to 1.73 billion. This is huge, and actually this is the second highest, expenditure after free SHS, because free SHS have moved from 1.9 billion cedis in 2021 to 3 billion in 2022. So there's a hope that maybe Kumasi may also get that road, and also the dualization of the Greater Kumasi to also limit the carnages on our roads. Again, the challenge that, or what has generated a lot of talkability, is the electronic transaction levy, which the government says that it will be charged on remittances. It will be charged on Momo transactions from the sender and also bank transfers. Now, David, I did a little bit of math here. You notice that when you go to the Ghana Highway Authority, they said that in 2018 we rigged in Toso, and I was shocked. We have 35 toll booths across the country. We got just 1.8 million cedis. In 2017, we got just 1.79 million cedis. So we did almost every year, we're getting just around 1.8 million cedis. So it shouldn't surprise you that yesterday night, though the budgets have not even been debated and approved, but the road minister, through a caveat, has said that there should be no, road tolls from this morning. And indeed, the report you are hearing is that when you go to Kaswa, other places, Achimseche, coming to Kumasi and all that, the tolls are there, the infrastructure is there, but there's no person taking the monies. Now, David, when you check the Momo transaction, in 2017, it was just around 70 billion. In 2017, now in 2020, we are recording around 500 billion cedis in terms of mobile money transactions. Yeah. Now it's not even 500. It's actually 519 billion cedis. So what that tells you,
and we've been hearing that it's going to get to 900 billion.
Yes, in the next 2-3 years. It tells you that the ecosystem is very friendly for people, and indeed there's a lot of transaction happening there. Now, when you take the 1.75% government intends to charge on some of these transactions, Momo alone, the government plus and minus, because there are some exemptions. For example, if you are daily, you are sending Momo less than 100 cedis, this tax do not apply to you. Monthly, if your Momo transaction is less than 3,000 cedis, it does not apply to you. So, for example, if David, I owe you 500 cedis, instead of sending the 500 cedis to you, I'll just daily send you 50 cedis. You can do that for the next 10 days, and I'll just pour your money for you. But David, the 1.75, if you do the math for Momo alone, government is supposed to rake in some 9 billion cedis. A year, and this is very high compared to the 1.8 the pittance you are getting from the road tolls. Again, when you check remittances, Ghana in the West African sub-region, we are the second biggest recipient of remittances after Nigeria because of their sheer volume of people. Now, in 2020, though COVID hit, we got $3.6 billion from remittances. Remittances basically means your friend, your mother, your sibling is abroad, and they send you some few pounds. Christmas, you're expecting the dollars to come and the pounds. 2020, Ghana accrued 3.6 billion. Now, when you convert that to cedis, CD value, it's 22.1 billion cedis. Now, Dave, when you do the 1.75%, just rough mathematics, government is also supposed to get over 386 million. So, yes, the road tolls have been taken. Government will essentially lose nothing much. So, this is why the government, I believe, is moving towards the electronic a spectrum, so that they can be able to charge some of these monies that that comes in. Again, there's also an innovation. NAPCO,
and of course, we're projecting it all on our Facebook page right now. If you join us on LUV 99.5 right now, you see all the projections there. You take your own time and you read it and you get to analyze it and all. So join us on Facebook. We have there, for example, the e-levies. And you see the usage of the e-levy. They are going to use it to create entrepreneurial, ecosystem, youth employment, cyber security, digital and road infrastructure, because the road levies have been taken off, and also the public transport. Now, David, the next one is the youth start. People have been asking the NAPCO. We employed 100,000 people. 33,000 have since been employed in various facets of the economy. The remaining were 67,000. The minister said that they will be employed under the communications ministry to be able to be part of a new initiative government is bringing called You Start. You Start, meaning that you are going to create your own employment and all that. And the seed capital for that is hovering around 1 billion cedis annually. So these are some of the major highlights. I think that as the days go by, you may be able to break it up. But David, let me just give you a little bit of also fun fact. This government said that they are moving the economy from taxation to industrialization. David, or production.
I was scandalized, and I have to say that we budgeted just 216 million for 1D, 1F. Meanwhile, we are budgeting over $500 million for paying allowances of teacher and nursing trainees. Actually, we are budgeting 507 million cedis for allowances. Meanwhile, when it comes to 1D, 1F, a very critical sector of the economy, where huge masses and the bulge of the youth will be employed, we are spending just 216 million. This is ridiculous. And we should not be doing some of these expenditure. The experts are here, so I'll leave it here, David.
Well, Eugene, thank you very much for joining us this morning with those information. Eugene Osei, we call him our fact checker. Some 27 minutes more to hit 8. That's what time it is. What do you make of the budget for 2022 as presented by the Finance Minister? The two key areas we intend to have a conversation on this morning has to do with the e-levy. And of course, the interchanges that we've been assured would be constructed starting 2022. Now, get fast and refreshing relief from stomach upset with number 10 liver salt. Number 10 liver salt restores vitality and provides effective relief from stomach upsets, nausea.
Mr. Speaker, it has become clear that there's this enormous potential to increase tax revenue by bringing into the tax bracket transactions that could be best defined as being undertaken.
Is an economist. He joins us to help us appreciate the situation we find ourselves in, especially the concerns raised by many Ghanaians about this e-levy that is 1.75% on Momo transactions plus other electronic transactions that takes place in the banks. But first of all, good morning to you, Newlove. Hope you're well.
Good morning, David.
So they call this budget Agyenkwa budget. I would like for you to first of all generally tell us what you make of this 2022 budget as presented to us yesterday.
Well, they call it Agyenkwa budget. I call it matricule budget. Matricule in the sense that nobody foresaw the tax on electronic activities or transactions, the e-levy. Most people were expecting that everyone has been agitating about fuel prices, and therefore those taxes, about 12 taxes on fuel, some will go away. So that was the expectation. And then from nowhere, that people did not anticipate, then came the e-tax. And therefore that's why I call it matricule, because most people have been tricked. Well, the government says it's taking out road toll. They know that road toll does not affect most people as fuel does. How many people will use the tolls, or how much is the toll that will affect people? But you buy fuel, and the tax on it per gallon, per liter even, is over 3 cedis. So that is where the pinch is. That is where people feel so much. So when you buy, at the moment, if you buy petrol, a gallon, let's say you buy 100 cedis worth of petrol, you are paying over 50 cedis as taxes. The taxes on petrol alone, over 50% of the price build up is tax. So people were expecting that those taxes, some will go away to lessen the burden for the ordinary Ghanaian. Unfortunately, it did not happen. And now they have introduced this retrogressive tax as well, which is the e-levy. Because when the poor who are supposed to take advantage of the mobile money and come to enjoy some of the benefit of e-business, we call some the financial inclusion. We've heard several times that most people in Ghana are unbankable. They don't have bank accounts, but with the mobile money, almost everyone who has access to phone can have mobile money accounts, and therefore that brings the vulnerable, the poor into the financial inclusion. And so to tax these activities at this level, I think... Have they not been catered for? Because, well, if your transaction is up to 100 Ghana, so there's less than 3,000 in a month, you are exempted from this levy. You see, sometimes it's easy to say some of these things, but when it comes to the implementation, you see, whatever transaction you make is tax. So you don't have to aggregate it to 3,000, then they can say that we are not going to tax you. So what they are saying is that if, let's say, I have to do transaction 50 cedis, I will not be taxed. What if I do 50 cedis and I do another 60 cedis? That is 110. Am I going to be taxed for both, or am I going to be taxed for the 60 cedis, or I will not be taxed at all because it's not up to 100 cedis? So the implementation is different from how we say things, because if they set a band or the range is, let's say, 0 to 100, you are not taxed. So I did first transaction, which was 50 cedis, so I wasn't taxed. Then I did another transaction, which is, let's say, 51 cedis. So now I'm above 100 cedis. So how am I going to be taxed? Now they are going to tax the whole 100 cedis I have done for the day. This is how it works. So it's not that simple that when you spend less than 100 cedis, you will not be taxed. So people would think that, oh, okay, they say if I send money less than 100 cedis, I will not be taxed. So somebody may send maybe 50 cedis 3 times, thinking that he will not be taxed.
But they say in a day. So once you exceed 100 cedis in a day, definitely you'll be paying this levy as well.
Yes, so I think they need more education. And so all in all, I said, and the budget is mixed reaction, because for instance, when you talk about the removal of the benchmark value, for instance, Gutta people were against it and AGI was for it. So when the budget came, AGI was happy, Gutta was angry, and I heard people threatening that, well, imported goods are going to go up even before the year ends, between 25 and 30% before Christmas. So we should brace ourselves for expensive Christmas. So these are some of the things. So people's expectations were not met the way they thought.
So those were your general thoughts. Let's take a look at this 1.75% on the bank transactions, merchant payments, Momo transactions, and remittances and all that. Break it down for us. So, for example, these days, a lot of people do not go to the banks because of the e-transactions that take place. Salaries are paid electronically. A lot of things are happening in there. Now, is this to suggest that we'll be paying double in terms of levies and taxes on these transactions?
David, before I even come there, you see, when they were doing this digitalization, they had agenda in mind, that the idea is to raise more revenue from the people, to bring everybody involved so that we can tax people easily.
But is that wrong? Because we've been talking
it's
about...
It's not wrong.
We've been saying that government should find innovative ways of
it's
roping
not
more people so they pay taxes.
It's not wrong. Much as people will be disadvantaged, especially the poor, those who I was saying are now included in the financial sector because of mobile banking. I think it's a smart way of making sure that a lot of people come into the tax bracket. So for me, I foresaw it coming, that when we are doing all these things, at the end of the day, when the economy is well integrated, this is one of the best ways we can get our taxes. Now, the idea is there will be some transactions may be subject to double taxation or double deductions. For instance, if, David, you transfer 100 cedis to me, you pay 1.5. You, the sender, pay. If I go to withdraw the money, I'll pay the normal 1% that I used to pay when I withdraw. That one is still there. Now, if I also should transfer that money to Eugene, I also pay. So the same 100 cedis, you pay 1.75% on it. And when I also transfer, I pay 1.75% on it. So as long as there's electronic transaction involved, everybody who uses it will pay. So that's kind of double taxation for me. It's like when I talk about double taxation, let's say somebody has given you money, the person has paid tax already, and then you who have been giving the money, you also pay tax on the money. That is double taxation. And for me, that is how this levy is going to work.
And again, we know that even these days when our money hit our accounts, there are many people who use mobile money to even withdraw some from their accounts onto their Momo account as well. So all these people, anytime you do such transactions, you are paying.
Yes.
Even when our managers, companies pay their staff into banks, they will pay. And so it is something that's all inclusive. Why can't we support such a move?
Yes, I mean, nobody can say no. If the government says this, you cannot say you don't want to support once it becomes law.
But people are saying that it's not the best for us and it's going to bring more hardships. They are making references to what has happened in Uganda, what has even happened in Malawi, and a few African countries where when we realize in one particular area that, well, there's a lot of transactions going on in there where we have a lot of money. And in our case, in 2020, we're told that we made some 500 billion. Then we think, hey, let's go tax it. People are saying that we need to tread cautiously.
No, the issue is nobody wants to pay money. And people, when they are paid into their banks and they transfer the money into their Momo account, they pay bank charges for transferring to the Momo account. So there's a payment there. And now, if you are going to transfer 1,000 from your bank to your Momo account, You pay your bank charges plus 1.75% on the transfer, the amount that you transfer. So naturally, people will react negatively towards it. For a while, I said yesterday, somebody was saying, I said it will become normalized in due course. But initially, people are conscious of the fact that, hey, when I make transfer, I have to pay this. So then I'm not going to even make the transfer. I'll go to the ATM and withdraw the money, or go to the bank and withdraw. But with time, you have to look at your convenience. You have to look at the speed with which you need to have the money transferred somewhere or do whatever. So with time, it becomes normally part of whatever you have to do. But initially, you expect people to talk. You expect people to express indignation that why going to pay a lot of money when I have to just do e-transaction, which will be easier. So allow people to express their disappointment, but eventually they cannot say we are not going to support. Government has thought about this, knowing that we're going to have backlash initially, but with time, people will get used to it, and we rake in the revenue.
But we have had people who have gone to the banks to, cash in money, and they've been robbed, and they've lost huge sums of money.
Exactly.
And so if I hear that people might not want to go to the to go through this electronic transactions anymore, but whether want to go to the banks and cash money, there are other aspects of dangers that are also looming.
So you weigh the risk involved, and that is why I'm saying that eventually, initially in the first month people will be skeptical, but after that people will get used to it. It's normal. It's natural. People normally.
So it's not going to affect the drive for a cashless economy as we.
Not really. For me, I don't see it that way. It's not going to affect it that much because naturally people will oppose to things that will take money away from them. But when you realize that I have no choice, change itself is not easy to embrace. There's always denial first. Then you come to the acceptance level, and then hey, life goes on.
What might have changed here? Because somewhere in August 2020, the vice president, was hosted by Kwame Sefakai, and he talked about the fact that, and I'm quoting what he said, I don't think mobile money, and that's the vice president who was answering the question, he said that I don't think mobile money should be taxed because most of the people who use the service are poor people. So if you put more taxes on it, they may suffer, or they will suffer, he stated. So what might have changed? What might have caused him to agree to all this? Because he says, Dr. Bamia at the time again said that what is rather important is for mobile money to be used as a vehicle to accelerate Ghana's journey to a cashless society. So what might have changed?
David, the day of planning is different from the day of battle. And necessity is the mother of inventions. Government realized that we need money. And how do we bring people into the tax bracket? Yes, we have registered people, and we know that people have tax identification numbers. But a mere possession of tax identification number does not make you a taxpayer. Maybe majority of them are not working. But at least people are using the mobile money. And if 500 billion can pass through mobile money in a year, then that is a big opportunity to make revenue, to make money from there as a state. And therefore, I would not fault him at all. It's opportunity, and realize that is where we can make money by bringing a lot of people. If you have over 40 million mobile subscribers and almost about 80% or 70% of them have mobile money accounts and they do transactions through that, then definitely you want to take advantage of that. And talking about the poor people, like we were discussing earlier, they have made some provisions, and I listened to some reasoning that makes sense that the poor do not make a lot of transaction during the day. So anyone who is able to make transactions above 100 cedis should be able to pay taxes. And then so we are leveraging on that, and then maybe giving some concession to the very poor people in the society who may be using 20 cedis, 50 cedis, and maximum maybe 80 cedis in a day, so that those people are not going to pay the tax. So those could be classified as the poor. So the government has already catered for them in that respect, so that any other person who spends more than 100 cedis in a day should be able to pay the tax. And that will bring in a lot of people on board, instead of maybe bringing a tax that will only be paid by a few people. That is why they've even taken away the road toll, because how many people paid the road toll and how much was it bringing? Plus paying workers who are collecting the toll and doing maintenance and all that. virtually nothing is left. So that is a smart move. So I will not fault that initially he thought that mobile money should not be taxed, but now looking at the amount of money that is going through the system, I think it's right to be taxed.
Well, it's some 12 minutes now to hit 8, and this is Love in the Morning on Love 99.5. We just had a slight conversation on the e-levies that are going to hit us from 2022. What do you make of that? How is that going to affect you? Of course, for many years now, we've been talking about how to, expand the tax net to get the people, especially in the informal sector, to also contribute to the development of this country. And this is what has been introduced. The minority are saying that, well, they're not going to be a part of it. They're going to ensure that they fight this. I don't know whether they will be able to win this battle.
They'll be part of it. They'll be part of it. They'll be part of it.
All right, so let's move on to the other one that has to do with interchanges. Let's move on to the one that has to do with roads. And again, in the presentation yesterday, this is what the finance minister had to say by way of roads, especially here in the Ashanti region.
Major pipeline projects that are expected to take off in 2022 include Accra Kumasi dualization, Kumasi South and Western Bypass, Kumasi Outer Ring Road, construction of 5 interchanges in the Greater Kumasi metropolitan area, including Swame, Santase, Airport Runabout, and Ofori Chrome.
So that was the finance minister on roads, especially here in the Ashanti region. He talks about interchanges. And on the interchanges, I know that there are quite a number of them. You know, he mentioned the Ofori Chrome, the Swame, the Airport Runabout, the Santase, and a few others. Now, a few calls that I made to some people who understand and know what is happening on the ground, my checks revealed that at least by the second quarter of next year, we should be seeing some works on the interchanges. By second quarter of 2022, we'll see some works begin. And I'm told that funding has already been sought. Some Brazilian companies are the ones that are going to do this, and the funding is coming from outside and not from here. That's what I gathered from the conversations that I had with that person or persons. And I was asking whether it's possible for us to be able to complete all these by 2024. He says, well, we don't have a completion date to them. And you and I know that we live in a country where projects begin and unfortunately along the line, they stall. Now, he also went on to talk about something like some social and environmental assessments that are going to be done before the whole project begins. Unfortunately, like I said, he cannot say when the project will really complete. Let's talk about the bypass. And the bypass is from Sofa Line Runabout. It will hit Santase Runabout.
David.
It will hit Dakujum. It will get to Ahonjo. And then it will get to the Ak. And we're going to have a dual road. That's what the plan is.
David.
Yeah.
Are you sure the audio you played was from yesterday or from previous years?
It was from yesterday.
Are you sure?
From yesterday.
The minister was just joking.
What do you mean by that? You don't trust that this thing?
He didn't mean it. I think he when he was editing the old budget notes, he forgot to edit that portion. That's why it was added. Because they have no intention of doing any interchange in Kumasi.
And I'm telling you,
they have no intention of doing those rules that you are talking about.
I've spoken to you and I've told you that there are people who have already said
David,
to me.
we have been given commencement dates before several times. Nothing has changed. For me, sitting here, until I see machines on the road, on the site, working giddy, I will not believe it. And they don't mean it. I'm telling you. 2022 will come and go, and you and I will be here discussing the same thing. Nothing is going to happen. Absolutely nothing is going to happen. That you're going to get 4 interchanges in Kumasi, dual carriage from Sofolai to Santase Runabout to the Ark to wherever. We have been here for long. We have followed budget for a very long time. And particularly since the MPP came to power, these rules that you are talking about, every single budget, they feature. And nothing happens. And nothing has changed. And so that's why I said the finance minister probably made mistake in his editing. And it got slipped in. It wasn't intentional. So don't take it serious.
Well, for my listeners' sake, I would say that what I gathered is what I've shared with you. The unfortunate thing is for people who live around that Swami enclave, I'm told that there's this water source there that is right on the runabout, and therefore is going to create a problem if care is not taken. If the right, plan is not enforced or put in place before the works of the interchange commences.
You really believe it?
It's going to be a problem for them. But again, we talk about the other roads in Kumasi where they had plans to, for example, do some construction works from Edriso. That would take to Anita Hotel to the Drabing Enclave, so that people who want to go up north will not have to drive all the way to Downlanga Junction and use the Swami Enclave and all that. Unfortunately, it's been on the table for a very, very long time. Work has not been done on it. And what has happened is that some people have even encroached on the lands that was earmarked for such projects. So these are the plans. But why can't we do this? Especially knowing very well that this is the World Bank of the NPP. And you hear people say that, well, we deserve better. Yes, every angle, every corner of this country is supposed to benefit from the national cake. But if the NPP is in power, people believe that, well, once they live here, once this is the World Bank of the NPP, they deserve much better. So why can't we have this? Will they be wrong in thinking like that?
David, the people are not wrong in thinking like that. Unfortunately, they don't have the power to do it. The one who has the power to do it is not interested in doing it.
How do we get them to do this?
We can get them to do it when we teach them that we, the electorate, we have the power, and that we will not give you the vote just for giving you the vote's sake. But anytime we decide that, well, this is the party we support, so whether they give us development or not, we vote for them, that is what they will do, because they will take us for granted. That is why the Kumasi interchanges have been featured in the budget for several years and nothing happens. Even the roads that they have started, they've all stalled. The president came here about 2 months ago, and giddy people came to site. Where are they? So, for me now, I don't take them serious until I see the things being done or have been done. I don't want to hear we will again. We will do. It's just rhetoric.
And I'm telling you that per my checks, second quarter 2022.
Well, second quarter we'll be sitting here discussing the same thing. Second quarter will be June 2022, right? And I bet you will be sitting here discussing the commencement date.
0322083596. Well, our focus has been on two key issues from the budget as presented yesterday. We've talked about the interchanges and some of the roads that has been earmarked for work in 2022. We've talked about the introduction of this electronic levy as well. You can be a part of our show now by giving us a call on 0322083596. Call us now. Let's hear what you make of the budget as presented yesterday, especially on these two key issues, the interchanges and the e-levy. How's that going to affect you? 0322083596. Kofi, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Bruni. How are you?
I am well, Kofi. Welcome.
And good morning to my comrade, New Lab. Good morning to you. David. New Lab has said it all. Look, we are already being taxed when you transact mobile money. Are we not? So they are going to increase the tax for us. Secondly, you are saying that you have spoken to some people and they are promising that the second quarter of 2022, they are going to do roads in Kumasi. At the same time, you are saying, you are giving an excuse that some runabout, the water, what underground, and so what? This is telling you that they are lying to us. They are not going to do anything for us. Look, 2020 was declared as a year of roads. 2021 was also declared as a year of roads. They are now declaring 2022. What is this? And throw abang.
All right, those were the thoughts of Kofi. You can also join us now on 0322083596. Let me speak to political thinker. Good morning.
Good morning, the Superman, David Akuetteh one.
Yes, go ahead.
Think, this budget is a fake. What am I saying this? The previous budget, they told us that they are going to, build an interchange around the Swami roundabout where it is. This is going to show it. This is going to show even what they have even started. So they cannot keep on throwing that into our eyes. No. So I think, in a nutshell, in fact, they are not the only intellectuals in Ghana here. Okay? Yes.
Taxes. So you don't go ahead to kill the business. No, let them bring in the raw materials, let them produce. Then you will tax, at the end of the day. And so our approach, and this is why we are going to bring down corporate taxes, we'll put incentives for real estate, tax incentives for the real estate sector, the special import levy on imports, the 1 to 2%, we will abolish it. And this is all to ginger up production and ginger up the economy. And I think that you have a government where you have cutlasses being taxed, condoms being taxed, and even savings. There was a 1% imposition on savings, which was later withdrawn.
On investments, yes.
On investments, which was later. I mean, even to think about it, it's
been suspended.
It's been suspended. I mean, but even to think about it.
Oh, it's now abolished, is it?
Okay, good. Yeah, but even to think about it, it doesn't. It just questions who are making these policies. I mean,
but isn't it just another way?
Another way of raising revenue.
Well, yes,
but when you become desperate, this is what happens. That when you've mismanaged the economy into this hole, then anything sounds great to you because you don't have any option. You see what I mean? And this is the problem, that anything that is taxable, that can feasibly be taxed, they are trying to impose taxes on it, increasing withholding, taxes on withholding, and so on. All of these are hurting. They are hurting the economy. These taxes are hurting, and therefore you are not going to get the growth. And when you don't get the growth, you will not get the revenue. And when you don't get the revenue, you go back to increasing taxes to get the revenue. And then you are in a cyclical down taxes. So you don't go ahead to kill the business. No, let them bring in the raw materials, let them produce. Then you will tax, at the end of the day. And so our approach, and this is why we are going to bring down corporate taxes, we'll put incentives for real estate, tax incentives for the real estate sector, the special import levy on imports, the 1 to 2%, we will abolish it. And this is all to ginger up production and ginger up the economy. And I think that you have a government where you have cutlasses being taxed, condoms being taxed, and even savings. There was a 1% imposition on savings, which was later withdrawn.
On investments,
on
yes.
investments, which was later. I mean, even to think about it it's
been suspended.
It's been suspended. I mean, but even to think about it.
Oh, it's now abolished, is it?
Okay, good. Yeah, but even to think about it, it doesn't. It just questions who are making these policies. I mean,
but isn't it just another way?
Another way of raising revenue.
Well, yes,
but when you become desperate, this is what happens. That when you've mismanaged the economy into this hole, then anything sounds great to you because you don't have any option. You see what I mean? And this is the problem, that anything that is taxable, that can feasibly be taxed, they are trying to impose taxes on it, increasing withholding, taxes on withholding, and so on. All of these are hurting. They are hurting the economy. These taxes are hurting, and therefore you are not going to get the growth. And when you don't get the growth, you will not get the revenue. And when you don't get the revenue, you go back to increasing taxes to get the revenue. And then you are in a
by bringing into the tax. Mr. Speaker, it has become clear that there's this enormous potential to increase tax revenue by bringing into the tax bracket transactions that could be best defined as being undertaken in the informal economy. After considerable deliberation, government has decided to place a levy on all electronic transactions to widen the tax net and rope in the informal sector. This shall be known as the Electronic Transaction Levy or e-levy. Electronic mobile money payments, bank transfers, merchant payments, and e-money remittances will be charged at an applicable rate of 1.75%, which shall be borne by the sender, except e-money remittances, which will be borne by the recipient. Mr. Speaker, to safeguard efforts being made to enhance financial inclusion and protect the vulnerable, all transactions that add up to 100 Ghana cedis or less per day, which is approximately 3,000 Ghana cedis per month, will be exempt from this levy. A portion of the proceeds from the e-levy will be used to support entrepreneurship, youth employment, cybersecurity, infrastructure, among others. Mr. Speaker, taxi baako yɛn nyinaa bɛtua. This tax is one, and we shall all pay. Mr. Speaker, this new policy also comes into effect once appropriation is passed on 1st January 2022. Government will work with all industry partners to ensure that their systems and payment platforms are configured to implement this policy. Mr. Speaker, it has become clear that there exists enormous potential to increase tax revenue by bringing into the tax bracket transactions that could be best defined as being undertaken in the informal economy. After considerable deliberation, government has decided to place a levy on all electronic transactions to widen the tax net and rope in the informal sector. This shall be known as the Electronic Transaction Levy or e-levy. Electronic mobile money payments, bank transfers, merchant payments, and e-money remittances will be charged at an applicable rate of 1.75%, which shall be borne by the sender, except e-money remittances, which will be borne by the recipient. Mr. Speaker, to safeguard efforts being made to enhance financial inclusion and protect the vulnerable, all transactions that add up to 100 Ghana cedis or less per day, which is approximately 3,000 Ghana cedis per month, will be exempt from this levy. A portion of the proceeds from the e-levy will be used to support entrepreneurship, youth employment, cybersecurity, infrastructure, among others. Mr. Speaker, taxi baako yɛn nyinaa bɛtua. This tax is one, and we shall all pay. Mr. Speaker, this new policy also comes into effect once appropriation is passed on 1st January 2022. Government will work with all industry partners to ensure that their systems and payment platforms are configured to implement this policy.
Taxes. So you don't go ahead to kill the business. No, let them bring in the raw materials, let them produce. Then you will tax, at the end of the day. And so our approach, and this is why we are going to bring down corporate taxes, we'll put incentives for real estate, tax incentives for the real estate sector, the special import levy on imports, the 1 to 2%, we will abolish it. And this is all to ginger up production and ginger up the economy. And I think that you have a government where you have cutlasses being taxed, condoms being taxed, and even savings. There was a 1% imposition on savings, which was later withdrawn.
On investments,
on
yes.
investments, which was later. I mean, even to think about it it's
been suspended.
It's been suspended. But even to think about it.
Oh, it's now abolished, is it?
Okay, good. Yeah, but even to think about it, it just questions who are making these policies.
But isn't it just another way?
Another way of raising revenue.
Well, yes,
but when you become desperate, this is what happens, that when you've mismanaged the economy into this hole, then anything sounds great to you because you don't have any option. You see what I mean? And this is the problem, that anything that is taxable, that can feasibly be taxed, they are trying to impose taxes on it, increasing withholding, taxes on withholding, and so on. All of these are hurting. They are hurting the economy. These taxes are hurting, and therefore you are not going to get the growth. And when you don't get the growth, you will not get the revenue. And when you don't get the revenue, you go back to increasing taxes to get the revenue, and then you are in a cyclical down tax.
It has become clear that there's this enormous potential to increase tax revenue by bringing into the tax bracket transactions that could be best defined as being undertaken in the informal economy. After considerable deliberation, government has decided to place a levy on all electronic transactions to widen the tax net and rope in the informal sector. This shall be known as the Electronic Transaction Levy or e-levy. Electronic mobile money payments, bank transfers, merchant payments, and e-mode remittances will be charged at an applicable rate of 1.75%, which shall be borne by the sender, except e-mode remittances, which will be borne by the recipient. Mr. Speaker, to safeguard efforts being made to enhance financial inclusion and protect the vulnerable, all transactions that add up to 100 Ghana cedis or less per day, which is approximately 3,000 Ghana cedis per month, will be exempt from this levy. A portion of the proceeds from the e-levy will be used to support entrepreneurship, youth employment, cybersecurity, infrastructure, among others. Mr. Speaker, taxi have been fixed. It is true that more roads have been fixed and are being fixed over the last 5 years than any relative period in the entire history of our nation. We even want to do a lot more, and this budget will cater for this. That is why for decades, governments after governments imposed and maintained tolls on some public roads to raise funds for road construction and maintenance. This is the situation in many countries. However, over the years, the tolling and impacted negatively on productivity. The congestion generated at the tolling points, besides creating these inconveniences, also leads to pollution in and around the vicinities. To address these challenges, government has abolished all tolls on public roads and bridges. This takes effect immediately the budget is approved on appropriation. The toll collection personnel will be reassigned. The expected impact on productivity and reduce environmental pollution will more than offset the revenue foregone by removing the tolls. Tolls, Mr. Speaker, would be abolished on all public roads. Our roads are being fixed. It is true that more roads have been fixed and are being fixed over the last 5 years than any relative period in the entire history of our nation. We even want to do a lot more, and this budget will cater for this. That is why for decades, governments after governments imposed and maintained tolls on some public roads to raise funds for road construction and maintenance. This is the situation in many countries. However, over the years, the tolling and impacted negatively on productivity. The congestion generated at the tolling points, besides creating these inconveniences, also leads to pollution in and around the vicinities. To address these,
it's disturbing. 500, to be very exact, 507 million Ghana cedis will be spent on this teacher and nursing allowance. Prince, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Please, I have just 3 issues to talk about the e-tax, e-levy on. You see, the minister said that he wanted to rope in the informal sector. But you agree with me that even those who are already in the formal sector, they still transact business using his mobile money platform. So I agree, on that sense, you realize that you will be double taxation for those who are already doing that. And then if I'm owing you, or you give your money to me, and I have to pay you back, and I'm sending the money, your own money, I'm giving it back to you, and then I will have to endure the 1.75%. That's also not fair, is it? It's not. So I also don't know whether this tax is a direct tax or is a sales tax, because there are people who earn their income through mobile money payments, and then we have an income tax rate. So instead of applying the income tax rate, you are going to apply 1.75, which is lower than what the other people are paying by way of income tax. So I don't know if they looked at all these things before coming up with this policy. Thank you.
Well, that was Prince. Let's speak to our final caller for the morning. Emilia.
Yes, Prince.
How are you?
By God's grace, I'm doing well. What about
I'm well. So, Emilia, what do you want to share with us this morning?
I want to talk about this budget. Frankly speaking, we thought it was 4 more to release it, but this one is 4 more stress, 4 more difficulty, and 4 more suffering. Frankly speaking, I don't understand this government. So, is it because the drivers were complaining that the prices of petrol was going up in and out? That is the reason why they strike that of the toll fees. Then they shouldn't have even done it, because that amount, I don't see it to be anything. I heard someone talking about maybe because of traffic and then other things.
Pollution and all, yes.
Even I think that if these people, do you know that people are, there are people who are going to be unemployed because of this initiative.
What the finance minister said they'll be catered for. He mentioned it.
What about those who are walking around those areas? What are they?
Well, hawking on the street itself is not permissible per our laws. So they should find a market somewhere and go and trade their business.
Oh, market somewhere. Let us be frank with ourselves. Even Kumasi here. Go to what is the name? Dr. Mensa. Go and look at where the women are sitting and they are trading. Where have they provided for these people? And if they are just by the road and then it's doing something small, look, this government, all the time I've been saying it, they don't just look at the ordinary Ghanaian at all. The only thing they want from the ordinary Ghanaian is food. That is all. Apart from that, nothing else. I'm okay. Let me greet my regional chairman, Nana Kwesi.
I hear you, Emilia. Thanks for joining us. What are people saying on Facebook?
This is from Gawina. Noah, he says, good morning, friends. The issue of this e-levy is that those hawkers on the road will be rendered jobless, and this digitalization e-levy will send us back to 16th, 17th century, where people will prefer carrying the cash, and this have a high tendency of increasing armed robbery and other social vices. This is contradiction budget. This, if implemented, would continue to put a burden on the ordinary Ghanaian, because doing transaction on business through the digitalization, it will be taxing you heavily. So it is very bad for the growth of digitalization and the cashless system that we are looking for. The government told us this is the year of roads, and the government is aiming to abolish toll levy. This e-levy government have to come again. If not, doom is ahead of us. And from Morgan, he says, I was disappointed not to hear anything about plans to review our educational system, starting from the allowances and this unplanned free SHS. Asemo Ghana. This is from Eric Kwakubwedi. He says he's watching us from Bichim. He says, nice budget presentation stand by Honorable Ken. God bless NPP government. In fact, Anando and Dr. Baumia is too much. Breaking the 8 is on course. Regards to Alfred Asiedu. Okay. And this is from Kingsley Chikozi. He says, please, in respect with the e-levy tax, is it that the total taxes on the mobile money will be 2.75, including the initial 1%, or just the 1.75% that will be implemented? And this is from True Citizen. He says, good morning, Mr. Newlove, for speaking the truth. This government is a scam. They have no respect for Ghanaians. Total scammers. And this is from Lillian Akosua Bidiako. She says, Radi Yesu, just one Mpunye, 3 more to go. Ghanaians are finished. Oh, MPP, Ko Santa, this is a 419 budget. And this is from Azuri and Felix. He says, nothing new. We should go and sleep.
I hear you. Well, thanks for joining us with those comments from Facebook, and thank you very much for sending them. Thank you very much for placing calls to the studios to be a part of the show. We'll be crossing over to Joy 99.7 for more. And trust me, it's budget, budget, budget. This has been Love in the Morning. My name is David Akuetteh. Have a great day.
Gender